Hello my friends, welcome to another episode of Green Dawn. My name is Wilfred. So some of you have followed me from the Marvel Heroes era and know that I'm really into numbers and enjoy number crunching or theory crafting. So now I'm playing the Reign of Terror mod, which is to transform the game Green Dawn into a Diablo 2 kind of setting, and and for this character I picked a Druid, cross it with the Paladin as dual class kind of setting. But in this video I'd like to examine the fire skills that a Druid has, and to help me make a decision as in like which kind of firepower should I be using under what scenario, and also what kind of ranks I should put it into, because like the good old Diablo days, you could put some ranks to various kind of like ability as well, and it's pretty awesome. Now the good thing about this mod is that you can reset all the power the way that you want to with no cost, zero cost, and I kind of love games like that. I mean, some say old school still the best, whereby you can't really, a build means something to you. You can't really change your build, but the reality is that without the level of experiments that you could experience, you end up just either watching video of other people or researching online to see which ability is the best to use, and then after that build around it. But you don't really get to like see how other abilities are placed, like, and you can't really make a build of your own, and that's what I don't enjoy. Some of these games that are really kind of like restrictive on the way they could really experiment anything you like, unlike, for example, this mod is a good example. Now the some of you come from the D2 background, probably know the firepower that a D2 Druid would have things like Firestorm, Molten Boulder, and Fissure, as well as the Volcano and the Armageddon. Now it's not exactly the same as the D2, it's more like inspired from it. Majority of the power pure fire, has a fire element to it. Some of them has a physical to it, and some of them has a burn kind of like to it as well. It's rather interesting. Some of them has a recharge that is like, for example, if you look at the Firestorm, the recharge is 1 second, but the burn is over 2 seconds. So you could either leave it for 2 seconds, let the damage over time work its thing, or just like cast another one. Some overlap, the other don't. So for example, if you look at some of this power here, let me just show it to you. Another hotbar is a bit of hotbar dancing, good old Marvel Heroes Day. Some of them you can overlap, but some of them don't. Like for example, if you look at the Volcano itself, you could have one Volcano, and then after that you can have the second one while this one starts to die off, kind of thing, because the Volcano will last for 5 seconds, while the cooldown is 4 seconds. Things like Fissure as well. So this is Boulder, by the way. Something like Fissure, you can have another Fissure somewhere that will pop another kind of like ability somewhere. But some of them doesn't, like things like the Armageddon, you can only have one of them. So this is a 10-second channel, but the moment you do another one elsewhere than the first one, getting you despawn. So you can't really just keep painting the whole sky red and so on. Now, so before jumping around, I think some people may want to skip the whole number crunching side and say, hey, look, what is good for me? So maybe I'll just cut through a chase and let you know what I think my build would like, and I would like to experiment that as well in reality, what it looks like, because you can theory craft anything you like, but in reality, does it really work under what scenario? All right. So now, but before I get there, let's just walk you through the 5 spell or power that we have for a Fire Druid. So the first one is a Firestorm. Firestorm is kind of nice. It gives you like kind of like front cone damage, 3 line to it. But then the enemy further from you may fall through the crack, may not get hit by this front cone damage. You could, for example, you could put some points to it. If you put like enough points to it, you could have like up to 5 projectiles instead of 3, and you get like really nice coverage of it. Like you can see that this whole thing is being covered in a very, very nice kind of area. So of course that increases your area, increases the chance of hitting something along the way. Basically you're just rolling the carpet of fire out. So that's one option. Another one is the Molten Boulder. Now this is one of my favorite powers as well. On itself, it kind of like hit pretty hard. It's very precise. You know exactly where it lands. You could let the 3-second burn kind of like its way. So every 3 seconds you add it as a layer, as a direct damage, as well as a burn damage. Or you can just spam it like every half a second you can spam it as well. That could potentially up your DPS against single target. Or sometimes in reality you don't really do half a second, because as you are like attacking something, you've got to hide a bit, kind of thing. You are doing maybe like 1 to 2 seconds kind of like interval to it. So just so you keep it real, you don't really having the benefit of like 0.5 seconds, because this game does require you to be a little bit mobile. So when you crunch a number, you could put in some assumptions there. Are you standing there just face tanking the boss and just like dumping all the molten boulder onto it, or you just do a bit of kiting like what you do here? So every second you try to hit the target while the target move. Again, it's a whole bunch of kind of like how versatile your build is to mix all the ability that you have under what scenario. Now when it comes to Volcano, it's kind of nice. This is feature. Okay, let's start with feature first. Now feature, what it does is that it has a 3. I think it's hang on a second, let me just get it right. It's a 3.2 seconds kind of like a duration, and there will be like every 0.2 seconds there's a little bubble that comes up, like a little tiny volcano. But if you notice, it doesn't spawn in the same area. So if you are doing single target, unless the boss is kind of big that it will hit by 2 fishes, a little bubble, you end up probably just hitting, if it is a caster that's just stand there, it is just 1 hit on that target. So, and then also the spawning area is a little bit random, so you may miss it. There's a pretty high, I think is if you look at the graph here, likely you have maybe 40% of hitting it, just estimating the area of space that you have over the area. So yeah, feature is another one. Feature is another one that's possible as a layer, but is may not be that effective as well. Now the fourth one is a Volcano, one of my favorite, because you just leave it there and it just keeps spawning. Now the good thing about Volcano is that let me just put some point to somewhere. Okay, the good thing about Volcano is that the more you put in, the more fragments that it does. So this is a much better Volcano that you have. So you have more things that spawn off from the Volcano, and I presume those enemy that get in the way will get hit here, and after that, when you land there as well, be burned up. So it is interesting, but it require a little bit of skill as well to where to space it, where to put it. You can't really put it in. Well, I think in a way, I'm just wondering if there is a boss that's right in the middle, does it get hit multiple times by the Volcano? Something that I could do a little bit of like experimental things to it. But however, having said that, I think if you just look at the one particular area, you can easily hit the same target at least twice. That's what my theory crafting is. If not, then it's about 4 times. It's about 2 to 4 times at least you can hit the target. So it's pretty good utility if you land on the right places, and any enemy that is around this area will get kind of like hit by those fire as well. So I kind of like it. Last but not the least is the Armageddon. Armageddon is a very, very wide area. That land on this whole big area. So if you have a lot of mobs in a large room, it's worthwhile to have it as a layer. The only thing that you need to be careful about is that it doesn't often land on all the space that you have. So the coverage is really less than half, I would say. Probably the coverage about 30 to 40% of the area that you have here. But if you do pay attention though, it seems to me that the middle it lands about quite a number of like maybe 4 times into the middle part over 10 seconds. So it's something that I kind of observe as well. If I'm tanking the boss, and I think if I call down the Armageddon, I can hit it like maybe 4 times on this one area that you see here. Like probably it's 3 times this time around, but this side is a little bit more. So again, when it comes to the firepower, I think everyone 5 of them all have its own utility in some sense, and how many of them you want to pick and what kind of rank do you want to rank up to is really depends on the number that come up from it. But I think for those who are not in the number, so my advice is that to use the boulder as the single target because that DPS is off the roof if you can maintain the 0.5 second kind of like a cast to it. Even so, I mean, you know, if not, then even 1 second is still pretty decent when it comes to DPS wise perspective. I like Volcano. I think Volcano is pretty cool. I think Volcano, you need to get to around 16 or 17 rank to get the maximum number of fragments that you can spawn off from the Volcano. Worthwhile to invest. Another one I like is the Armageddon. Now Armageddon probably don't need the whole max of it. You probably can dial down to half of it, like rank 10. Is probably good enough to mix around with others that you may have. And so yeah, that would be my advice to you all. Now the next bit of the video is really looking into the number itself. So for those who like the spreadsheet kind of thing, do stay on. Alright, part 2 of the video is really about the spreadsheet itself, looking at Firestorm, Molten Boulder, Fissure, Volcano, and Armageddon. So now let's start with something that is a Firestorm, because Firestorm is ability that when you first started a character, you know, that would be the very first ability that you could use to experiment. And it's pretty good because it does hit pretty directly. I mean, you know where you are landing, unlike some of these like Armageddon or Fissure, whereby you don't really know how it lands. So this one is a nice kind of like a nice landing. The DPS wise is not fantastic, I would say. You're looking at around the so let's start from the beginning again, right? So you as you ranked up, of course, the damage will go up. But there's a diminishing return when it comes to all this game design, as you know that. There are things that I do not consider in this model. I don't consider like a multiple target because it's just too hard to kind of like visualize how many target in the area. And I also don't include the main hand damage as well, or weapon damage, because it really depends on what kind of weapon that you have, and there's a wide kind of range between the two of them. And as a fire druid, I think you know, you can do melee. I tried that, or you can do a range as well. So I want to take that out from the equation. Now, just purely look into fire damage itself. Now, there is a 2 second burn to it, whereby you can do a 1 second cooldown, recharge. You can cast it every 2 seconds to maximize the burn while conserving mana, or you can do like every second, just hit it with the direct count of fire damage to it. It's up to you. So I run through a number. If you just do every 2 seconds as a layer, so you use the Firestorm as a layer, then you get around 500 at the top rank 20. It's pretty low actually. You'll see other ability you can use in a better option. And then if you want to maximize the DPS and just cast on cooldown, now of course, you know, get a little bit more than that. Now it won't be like a double of it, because the burn damage doesn't like stack onto each other. Damage over time, just damage over time. It doesn't stack in that sense. Another thing I look into is the damage per mana cost. So you know, you pump out 11 mana or 20 mana or 30 mana, then you want to see what kind of return you have in terms of damage. Give you an idea. Sometimes a longer fight can be quite draining in your mana, so you kind of like, at least you know what sort of the range that you're talking about here. And another thing that interesting to see is the of course the diminishing return versus the damage that you can get from it. So not necessarily, especially for some of the power here, you have to get the maximum of it, but you know, it give you the kind of at least reference when it comes to how many ranks should I have. Should I pick like one Firestorm at the 10 and then, you know, Molten Boulder at 10, you know, kind of thing, and then add up together? Does it beat my 20 rank 20 kind of like Firestorm? Yeah, I mean, that is the reason why we do all this number here. All right, so now the last thing I would like to highlight is the variance between the min and max. It's kind of important. The variance between the min and max for Firestorm is pretty decent. It's only about 11% up and down. So net the spread is about 22%. So what I mean is that if you are unlucky, then you are like you hit a few times and everything is low roll. Then you get probably 22% lower than what you could done like in maximum. Now compared to Molten Boulder, which the DPS is a lot higher, but I'll walk through a detail in just a bit. The variance is 34% if you look at just the burn itself. Look at the range from the minimum, the maximum kind of thing. That means that if you are unlucky, you have a few kind of like bad rolls, then you end up like really not feeling it. Like, hey, how come my Molten Boulder is not really delivering the kind of punch that I kind of expect? But that's the reality of it. Sometimes it really punch really hard. But then, when it comes to this Reign of Terror mod, the duration of try to down a boss could be quite long, especially when you are leveling, do not have sufficient gear, and if over 1 or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, all these things will average out anyway. So don't overthink the whole thing, but it just tell you that sometimes you feel that some power are very punchy, but then their performance is not that consistent, and that is the consistency that you're seeing here. Suffice to say, the diminishing return curve is rather the same. When you hit 10 ranks, you are looking at just 10% increment over the last kind of rank. When you hit 20, you're looking at 5% increment. So that is a diminishing return of it. Molten Boulder is very good. If you cast it every 3 seconds, let the burn does its own thing, you are exceeding 1000 DPS to the whole kind of like setup of it. However, if you do spam it, it's pretty phenomenal. But it say that, well, I can't really do half a second kind of thing. If you do just like every second, like the one that you kite and you see how I demo that, you're still getting a pretty decent like 2000 odd kind of like a DPS. So of the whole suite of tool set here, this is the highest you can get. The Molten Boulder is really good. It's a good single target as well, because the rest of it are kind of like area thingy. But this one is very precise. There's no guessing where it lands. You know exactly where it lands. It takes a little bit of animation, but if the mod doesn't jump around too fast, you can land your hits as well. All right. So that is how you see this thing. It's also pretty good return of damage per mana that you spend compared to say Firestorm. All right. Now, when it comes to feature, feature is not really that great, but I will go through that anyhow. Feature is the one I mentioned to you. Is a little bubble pop up from the ground. Total 16 of them, 0.2 second, one get popped up, 3.2 second kind of duration to it. The burn damage over time is 3 seconds, but there is a 50% chance that it'll burn, 50% chance it doesn't burn. So in your model, you have to take into consideration. So consider all things, you're looking at about 640 kind of like DPS if you cast every 3 seconds, or if you kind of like cast it on cooldown of 2 seconds, you can hit like 767. But I mean, you compare that with the Firestorm, and I would just say the Firestorm is deliver even better kind of like damage, and better kind of like return of mana, and better kind of certainty, because you know that you can burn the target, you know that you hit the target right in front of you as a front cone. But feature is a little thing that slowly pop up from the ground kind of thing. So that is something that you need to think about. But of course, one thing that I haven't really modeled and you have to observe as well in the game is that the bubble tends to stay there just a little bit longer. So it may kind of like, if people just stand on it for a while, it may kind of hit them. I don't know, maybe not, maybe just the burn. So again, observe that. You'll probably see what I mean after you play a little bit of game and to see how the whole thing interacts. And that's the fun thing about number. It doesn't tell you everything. You still need to put in your practice to it, and the skill does matter in the end. Okay, so by all in all, same kind of curve that you see in terms of the diminishing return is 10%, 5% kind of at the 10 and 20 rank kind of thing. When it comes to Volcano is an interesting kind of like observation there. So I would say that for my calculation, and I have to be realistic here, is that over a duration of 5 seconds, I do observe that it hits at least twice, if not 4 times. So I'm doing it conservatively, doing twice. You are looking at 10,000 kind of like DPS by rank. If you cast on cooldown, it's 1200. So it is, of course, it's not as good as the Molten Boulder, but it's kind of comparable if you look at the DPS wise. And the Volcano, good thing about Volcano is that it hits pretty wide kind of thing. So compare the Molten Boulder and Volcano, if you just want to fire and forget, like for Molten Boulder every 3 seconds, for Volcano every 5 seconds, it's a good layer to have. Both of them are kind of good layer. And then of course now then you ask yourself, well, should I put in like 20 points to it, or am I happy with like maybe looking at 535 here, and then makes you a Molten Boulder 607, and you got 2 layers, right? And then you get more situation that you can cover. So again, with the number you can tell, and also with the stat saying that the minimum and maximum fragments of it, 2 and 5, 2 and 6, 3 and 6, 3 and 6, and 4 and 6, and 4 and 7, you can make a decision like, maybe I should invest up to here. that would be my point of investment. I can save the other 5 points or 4 points onto some other power to buff some other power, and you can do that too. So instead of like a 2010, or you can have like 16 and 16 or whatever, 16 and 14 somewhere else, right? So that is option that you can have. The interesting about this setup is that normally you see a curve from the you hit 10% in somewhere in the rank 10, and then you tail off 5% towards the end. It is still so, but you do see that there's a kind of like a dip here and then ramp up here. So not entirely sure. Is it because of the fact that it's a 3.6.4.6 kind of setup that they kind of like the designer or the mod designer has compensated that, or just a genuine mistake somewhere that the number is not just right. But this is the part that is a little bit interesting. Not entirely sure why there's a dip there. It doesn't seem that it's worthwhile to put 12. Maybe it's worthwhile to put 13 instead of 12 because you get overall better kind of thing. So 12 is not worth it. If you want to do 11 or 13 is where I would put my money into. Okay, last but not least, Armageddon. Armageddon is also pretty decent as well. If you look at the DPS wise, it's a 1288, which is comparable to the Volcano, actually better than the Volcano, as well as comparable to the Molten Boulder. Now, I'm observing that the middle center area tend to hit multiple times, while other areas is a bit of hit and miss. So if you are doing a single target, if you call the Armageddon onto the boss, you probably hit 3 times. So that is the kind of like assumption I have got. It doesn't clip, like I said, I mean, it is a 10 second duration. And it doesn't, although you can cast it every 6 seconds, it's more for repositioning. It doesn't overlap between the two areas. It doesn't make it a bigger area to tackle. So there's no like maximum DPS per se. So I'll stop there. My thought is that with this, it's actually pretty decent to have a layer, because 10 seconds is a pretty good layer to have. It's a fire and forget. Just fire that, let the thing run on its own, just deal with other things. So I would actually mix the Armageddon and Volcano together into something quite interesting. I would probably put 16 on Armageddon, and then on Volcano, and Armageddon I'll put somewhere probably 10 or whatever it is, to sort of like, I don't need the kind of thing that is here. Maybe I can leave with like 683. And another one that I probably will invest heavily on is the Molten Boulder, because that is like my single target killer. If I can't find anything in the game that I can supersede this one, then I say Molten Boulder is probably the good one. It does have the fire and physical damage as well. So I do not know whether this Green Dawn mod is modeled against a D2 mod, whereby sometimes the boss or the enemy could be resistant to physical damage or fire damage. But this is a pretty decent kind of like option when it comes to scenario whereby some of the mods could be resistant to fire or physical damage. So I hope you find this kind of like a video kind of useful. I think all of them are physical and fire except the feature as well. So except the feature and the Firestorm. Boulder, Volcano, and Armageddon are both a hybrid kind of like setup. All right, so now thank you so very much for watching. I hope you can enjoy a little bit of number crunching, and I'll definitely see you again next time. Drop me a note below and see what you would like to see, or what question you may have, or what comments that you may have. All right, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.